I never imagined I would say these words out loud, let alone mean them with every part of my soul, why I regret moving into a nursing home. For most of my life, I believed what many people still believe, that a nursing home is a safe landing place, a solution when aging becomes difficult, a promise of care, comfort, and peace. But the truth is far more complicated, and sometimes painfully opposite. This story isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to prepare you. Because once you cross that door, some choices cannot be undone. Let me take you to Springfield, Illinois, where I met Robert Collins, a retired high school history teacher, 74 years old, a man who spent decades guiding young minds. Robert was independent, sharp, and proud. After a minor fall, his adult children suggested moving into a nursing home, temporarily. The word temporary sounded harmless. Safe, even. Robert agreed, believing it was the responsible thing to do. 6 months later, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "This is the biggest regret moving into any decision I've ever made." Robert's story is not unique. According to a 2023 report from the U.S. National Institute on Aging, nearly 62% of seniors who move into long-term care facilities experience increased feelings of depression within the first year. Another study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that loss of autonomy, not medical condition, is the strongest predictor of emotional decline after entering a nursing home. These numbers rarely appear in brochures. When people talk about moving into a nursing home, they talk about meals prepared for you, nurses on call, and safety rails in the hallway. What they don't talk about are the silent trade-offs, the rigid schedules, the subtle loss of identity, the feeling of being managed instead of living. These are the hard truths no one wants to say out loud. These are the truths you deserve to hear before making one of the biggest decisions of your life. I remember Robert telling me how the first week felt like a hotel stay. The second week felt like a hospital. By the third week, it felt like a waiting room for the rest of his life. That's when the thought crept in, why I regret agreeing so easily, why no one told me about these hard truths you must know. This video is not about blaming families or caregivers. It's about honesty. It's about understanding what into a nursing facility truly means beyond the surface. Over the next few sections, we'll uncover the emotional, psychological, and physical realities behind regret moving, backed by real stories and scientific data. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change how you or someone you love sees aging forever. Hard truth number 1. Losing control happens faster than you think. The first hard truth no one warned Robert about, and the one that hurt the most, was how quickly control slipped away. When people imagine a nursing home, they often think help is optional, something you can accept or refuse. The reality is very different. Once you start moving into a structured care system, your daily life is no longer truly yours. Decisions that once felt small, when to wake up, what to eat, when to shower, are suddenly scheduled, standardized, and monitored. Robert told me about his mornings. Back in Springfield, before the move, he woke up when his body felt ready. He brewed his own coffee, sat by the window, and read the newspaper cover to cover. Inside the nursing home, mornings began at 6 a.m. sharp. Lights on. Knock at the door. Time to get up, Mr. Collins. Breakfast trays arrived at fixed times, whether he was hungry or not. This was the moment he first felt regret moving into the facility, not because the staff was cruel, but because the system didn't bend for individuality. Scientific research backs this up. A study from the University of Michigan's Institute for Healthcare Policy found that seniors in institutional care experience a 43% reduction in perceived autonomy within the first 3 months. That loss of control strongly correlates with anxiety, sleep disturbances, and cognitive decline. In simple terms, when you stop making choices, your mind begins to weaken. This is one of the hard truths you rarely hear discussed openly. I also spoke with Margaret Lewis, 79, from Tucson, Arizona, a former small business owner who prided herself on independence. She described how staff decided when she could go outside, how long phone calls lasted, even how often she could keep personal items in her room. "I didn't move into a nursing home," she said quietly. "I moved into a system." That sentence alone explains why "I regret" is such a common phrase among residents. Families often believe this loss of control is the price of safety. But the data challenges that assumption. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reduced mobility and over-assistance can actually increase fall risk by weakening muscles over time. Ironically, the very environment meant to protect seniors can accelerate physical decline. This is where regret moving begins to take root, not in one dramatic moment, but in daily surrender. Each small decision handed over chips away at dignity. These are the hard truths, not because they are shocking, but because they are quiet and constant. And once you notice them, it's impossible to unsee them. As we move forward, the next truth goes even deeper, into loneliness, identity, and why being surrounded by people doesn't always mean you're no longer alone. Hard truth number 2, loneliness can deepen even in a crowded place. One of the most surprising and painful realizations for many seniors is this: you can feel deeply lonely even when you are surrounded by people. This is the second of the hard truths you must know, and it's often the most misunderstood. Many families assume that a nursing home eliminates loneliness because there are always staff, other residents, and daily activities. But emotional connection is not the same as physical presence. And this gap is where regret moving into truly begins to sink in. I met Helen Brooks, 82, from Dayton, Ohio, a former choir director who spent her life bringing people together through music. When she agreed to moving into a nursing home, she believed companionship would be guaranteed. "I thought I'd never be alone again," she told me. "Instead, I've never felt more invisible." Conversations were short, rushed, and often transactional. Staff were kind but busy. Other residents were dealing with their own physical and cognitive struggles. Deep, meaningful conversations, the kind that nourish the soul, became rare. Science confirms Helen's experience. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Aging and Mental Health found that nearly 55% of nursing home residents report chronic loneliness, even higher than seniors living alone in the community. The reason? Loss of familiar relationships and reduced opportunities for purpose-driven interaction. Loneliness, researchers warn, increases the risk of dementia by up to 40% and heart disease by 29%. These are not emotional inconveniences, they are serious health risks. Helen described evenings as the hardest part. The hallways grew quiet. Television sounds echoed behind closed doors. That's when the thoughts arrived. Why did I agree to this? Why didn't anyone tell me these truths you only learn by living them? This is the unspoken side of why I regret. Not the lack of care, but the lack of belonging. Quick question for you: are you still watching and reflecting with us up to this point? If yes, type number 2 in the comments right now. It helps us know this message is reaching the people who truly need these hard truths. There is another layer to this loneliness that's rarely discussed. When seniors enter into a nursing environment, they often feel their stories no longer matter. Helen said, "I used to be someone. Now I'm a room number." That quiet loss of identity feeds emotional withdrawal, which then gets mislabeled as normal aging. This is why regret moving doesn't always show up as anger. Often, it shows up as silence. As we move into the next section, we'll explore a truth that's even harder to face: how dependence, once it begins, can quietly accelerate physical and mental decline. Hard truth number 3, dependence can accelerate decline. The third reality many seniors never anticipate is how quickly dependence can grow, and how dangerous that growth can be. When you move into a nursing home, help is always available. At first, that feels like relief. But over time, constant assistance can slowly replace abilities you once had. This is one of the most overlooked hard truths you must know, and it explains why I regret moving into such environments far more than most people realize. Consider Thomas Reynolds, 76, from Boulder, Colorado, a former marathon runner who stayed active well into his 70s. After a hip surgery, his doctor recommended short-term rehabilitation. What began as recovery turned into permanent residence. At home, I would have pushed myself to walk, Thomas told me. Here, they tell me to wait. Sit. Let someone help. Within a year, his muscle strength dropped dramatically, not because of his injury, but because he stopped using his body the way he once did. This is how regret moving quietly sets in. Medical research supports Thomas's experience. A landmark study in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, revealed that older adults who receive excessive assistance lose functional ability up to 30% faster than those encouraged to remain independent. This phenomenon, often called learned dependence, leads to reduced mobility, weaker balance, and increased fall risk, the very outcomes nursing homes are designed to prevent. Mental decline often follows physical dependence. According to the Alzheimer's Association, cognitive function is closely tied to physical activity and self-directed behavior. When routines become passive and decisions are made for you, the brain receives fewer stimulation signals. Over time, memory, attention, and problem-solving abilities weaken. This is one of the most painful truths you don't hear during tours or family meetings. Thomas described the moment it hit him. One afternoon, he struggled to button his shirt. Not because he couldn't, but because he had grown used to someone else doing it. "That's when I understood why I regret agreeing to this place," he said. "They didn't take my strength. I gave it away." Families often confuse safety with stillness. But stillness is not safety. Movement is life, especially in aging. When seniors are overprotected, they are slowly underlived. This contradiction lies at the heart of many hard truths surrounding long-term care. In the next section, we'll confront another uncomfortable reality: how emotional stress and institutional living can quietly affect physical health in ways that many never expect, until it's too late. Hard truth number 4: emotional stress can harm your physical health. One of the most underestimated realities of moving into a nursing home is how emotional stress silently seeps into the body. People often separate mental health from physical health, but science tells a very different story. This fourth lesson is among the most serious hard truths you must know, and it explains why so many seniors say, "Why I regret moving into a nursing home," only after their health begins to change. I spoke with Linda Martinez, 81, from San Antonio, Texas, a retired librarian who entered a nursing home after her husband passed away. On paper, she was healthy, normal blood pressure, controlled cholesterol, no major chronic illness. Within 8 months of moving into the facility, she developed frequent infections, digestive issues, and severe fatigue. Doctors adjusted medications, but nothing helped. What finally surfaced was chronic stress and grief amplified by her environment. According to a 2021 study in psychoneuroendocrinology, prolonged emotional stress in older adults increases inflammation markers such as C-reactive protein, CRP, which is linked to heart disease, weakened immunity, and accelerated aging. Another report from Harvard Medical School confirms that social isolation and loss of purpose can elevate cortisol levels, directly harming cardiovascular and immune systems. These aren't abstract theories, they are measurable biological changes. These are the truths you deserve to understand. Linda described the feeling as constant pressure. "I wasn't abused. I wasn't neglected," she said. "But I was always tense." She missed cooking her own meals, choosing her own bedtime, stepping outside without permission. That low-level stress, day after day, wore her down. This is where regret moving turns from emotional pain into physical reality. Let me ask you something important. Are you still with us and reflecting on these hard truths? If yes, please type number 4 in the comments right now. It helps the Golden Age Wisdom community reach more people who need this information before making irreversible decisions. What makes this truth especially painful is that stress is often invisible. Blood tests don't always show it right away. Staff may not notice it. Families may mistake it for normal aging. But the body knows. And it keeps score. Many seniors blame themselves when their health declines, not realizing the environment plays a powerful role. Understanding this connection is crucial, because it leads us to the next and final hard truth, one that forces us to ask whether this kind of life is really what aging was meant to be. Hard truth number 5: it's harder than you think to get your life back. The fifth and final reality is the one that haunts most residents long after they've settled in. Once you move into a nursing home, leaving is far harder than anyone tells you. This truth is often buried under paperwork, reassurances, and good intentions. Yet it is one of the most painful hard truths you must know, and a major reason behind why I regret moving into long-term care. I met George Whitman, 78, from Rochester, New York, a former small-town radio host with a booming voice and sharp wit. After a mild stroke, his family encouraged moving into a nursing home, just until things stabilize. George improved quickly, walking independently, speaking clearly, managing daily tasks. But when he asked about going home, the answer kept changing. Insurance rules. Doctor approvals. Facility recommendations. What was once temporary became indefinite. I didn't fail my recovery, George said. The system trapped me. Data from Medicare policy analyses show that seniors who enter nursing homes for short-term rehabilitation have less than a 30% chance of returning to fully independent living, even when medically capable. The reason is not health alone, but administrative momentum. Once you're labeled as someone who needs care, reversing that label is incredibly difficult. This is one of those truths you never hear during the intake process. George explained that every request to do more for himself was met with concern. They called it safety, he said. I call it fear of letting go. Over time, even family members began to doubt his ability, not because he declined, but because they got used to seeing him there. This emotional shift is subtle, but devastating. It fuels regret moving, because independence doesn't disappear overnight, it fades through lowered expectations. Psychologists refer to this as institutional identity drift, where individuals slowly absorb the role assigned to them. According to research in the Gerontologist, seniors who internalize dependent roles show reduced motivation and self-efficacy, even when physically capable. In other words, belief becomes limitation. As George put it, the hardest part isn't being here. It's realizing how hard it is to prove you don't belong here. That sentence alone captures the deepest hard truths of nursing home life. In the final section, we'll step back and look at the bigger picture, what all these stories and data points truly mean, and how you can make wiser, more empowered decisions for yourself or someone you love before it's too late. Closing, the truth that can still set you free. If there is one message I hope stays with you, it's this: regret doesn't come from needing help, it comes from not being told the full story. Every person you've heard about today, Robert in Springfield, Helen in Dayton, Thomas in Boulder, Linda in San Antonio, and George in Rochester, shared one painful realization. They were not warned about the hard truths you must know before moving into a nursing home. And by the time they understood why I regret moving into that world, turning back was no longer simple. These stories are not meant to shame families or caregivers. Many decisions are made out of love, fear, and urgency. But love without information can still lead to unintended harm. Science confirms what lived experience reveals: loss of autonomy, chronic loneliness, learned dependence, emotional stress, and institutional barriers can quietly reshape a person's health and identity. These are not rare cases. They are patterns. And ignoring them is how regret moving becomes so widespread. So what do these truths you now know ask of you? They ask you to pause, to ask better questions, to explore alternatives before stepping into a nursing system that may be harder to leave than to enter. Home-based care, assisted living with flexibility, aging-in-place modifications, and strong community support are not perfect solutions, but for many, they preserve dignity far longer. If you are watching this and thinking, "I wish I had known this earlier," you are not alone. And if you are planning for the future, yours or someone you love, you still have power. Awareness is not fear. Awareness is freedom. If you've stayed with us until this final part, please show your voice matters. Type "final" in the comments, like this video, share it with someone who may be facing this decision, and subscribe to Golden Age Wisdom. Your support helps bring honest conversations, real stories, and life-changing insights to more seniors and families around the world. Aging should never mean disappearing. The goal is not just to live longer, but to live with meaning, choice, and respect. And sometimes, the greatest wisdom comes not from what we accept, but from what we dare to question.